Take a seat, grab a cup. It's tea time with T-Gerf. Hey guys, welcome to Tea Time with T-Gerf. We've got honest answers for your honest questions. Let's see what the questions are today. You ready for this? This is so exciting. All right, here we go. Question is, what are some of your tips for making the most of your summer as a student? Okay, it's a good question. Good question. So summertime, especially if you're in college, and you didn't just graduate, it's like after your freshman, sophomore, junior year. Couple things that I always try to talk about with students as far as their options go for summer. One would be that if at all possible, find an internship or something related to your field. Find some way to get some work experience. Find something that you feel like is going to contribute to what you're looking to go into, or maybe even just a way of finding out if you really like what you think you want to go into. I know one of the big things for a lot of students is, after they graduate, they'll say things like, I can't get a job because I don't have any experience, and that's all they keep talking about in the interviews is, what's your work experience? And, students will say, either graduates will say, how am I supposed to get a job if I don't have experience? And what I always tell students is that, I can understand the frustration, because you're saying, that how, just give you a chance, to get some work experience at the job you're applying for and prove yourself. But what I always tell students is this, is that, that person that you're asking for a job, and that you may say something to the effect of, well, how was I supposed to work when I was going to school? One of the big things is that, you don't need to assume that they didn't go to school and work. And you don't need to assume they even went to school. A lot of, generations are changing, times are changing, I get that. But here's what I would also, if I was hiring somebody out of college, I would also ask the question, well, I understand, you were going to school, but did you take classes year round? Did you take classes in the fall, in the spring, and the summer? Because if you didn't take classes during the summer and you weren't working a job, and I understand, not all the jobs or internships you could get may make money or make the money you need. But let me just tell you this. Everything that is successful comes with sacrifice. So if you're not willing to sacrifice a summer and get some work experience and get some stuff behind you and under your belt, then you really forfeit your right to complain when you graduate and they tell you that the jobs you're wanting, that they want you to have some work experience, and you don't have it because you never took the time to do that. So for sure, don't miss it. Try to get an internship. Try to get something related to your field. If that's not in the cards, if that's not an option, I would say, for sure, find some kind of work. I know that when I was in school, guys, specifically, I know guys did this. They would go find a pipelining job up somewhere north in the Dakotas somewhere, and they would make bank over the summer. So they didn't have to worry about money for the rest of their school year coming up. So yeah, find a job that you can make some money, that you can put some money aside, that you could be responsible with. Go stay at home with mom and them if that's an option. Save as much money as you can and make as much money as you can if you can't get an internship or something like that. I know for me personally, a little plug here is when I was a student in college, all my summers I worked at this amazing camp called Med Camps Louisiana, and it's in North Louisiana, right outside of Ruston. Unfortunately this year, because of everything going on, they had to postpone the camps and things like that. But if you're ever looking for a summer job that is very rewarding, not financially, although you do get paid to be a counselor, but it's more about really giving back and helping learn about yourself and build character and serve these kids with different disabilities to give them the best week of their lives, you should look up Med Camps Louisiana. So, little plug there. Which, by the way, I found my wife at Med Camps, and so another little plug there. Just saying, summer camps change lives for everybody. Um, Another thing I would say, as far as making the most tip from making the most of your summer, so if you can get an internship, that's great. If you can get a summer job, that's great. Another thing I would say is don't let summer just be a waiting period. Don't let summer just be a time where you just are waiting for the fall to happen, or you're just you're just using it as like a time that's passing by. Like, make your summer count just like you would make any day count, especially if you're a student. Like, listen, hear what I'm saying. During the summer, you can do so many things. I know that for a lot of people, that's when they put all their stock into travel. If they're going to travel with friends, if they're going to go do something that they've always wanted to do, if they're going to catch up on the to-do list, or the list of things that they've always wanted to do, they catch up on that list, their bucket list almost, if you will. Another thing is that like you don't want to completely go brain dead over the summer and then come fall and you just be so out of like your element, and it takes you 6 weeks in the fall to get acclimated back to even thinking straight. So like over the summer, be engaged, be active, do something productive. I know that even if that's you contributing at home with yard work, or helping your parents, or helping family, or whatever it is. I know some people, they just like to go volunteer, because, not believe it or not all work you have to be paid for. And so sometimes just going and volunteering somewhere, just being productive at all, is going to help you go a lot further for your summer than just sitting around. Which, by the way, I'm all for sitting around a little bit. I'm all for picking up if you're going to play a little game, whatever you need to do. Of course, I would challenge you to grow personally as well. So don't be afraid of books. Don't be afraid of audio books, if that's even better. Don't be afraid of finding ways, which some of those ways would be, you don't have a choice, some of you, but others of you, if you can take a class, if you can knock out some of your classes, if you have the money for that, or if you have the ability to do that over the summer, do it. It's only going to help you bet more in the fall and spring semesters, where it's a lot more intense. So that's just some things I would say as far as making the most of your summer. Summer's kind of like college altogether. A saying that I learned a long time ago was, either you can just let college happen to you, or you can happen to college. Which means this, is that you can go through school and pass exams and get the grades you want, but not learn a thing by the time you graduate, and not be any more prepared for the real world outside of college than you were when you showed up freshman day one. Summer's the same thing. You can just let summer happen and not get anything done, and just be a bum the whole summer. Or you can take advantage of things you can do during summer that maybe you can't do in the other parts of the year, or just the simple fact that you just need to take advantage of it and make the most of it in your own way. So that's just a few things I would say to you guys to think about for summer. And man, I sure do hope that you transition well, and that you guys get ready for whatever it's going to look like for you coming up. So a couple other questions you guys had today for us. For me is, why does God say, do not kill, but we see wars happen in the Bible? Wow, that's a very good question. Actually, a lot of times if I ever watch war movies with people, that kind of comes up. And it's one of those things where fundamentally you've got to decide, or you've got to be open to the conversation of, killing, murder, motive, casualty, like all these different concepts that go around the bottom line, which is a life ends. Something is ending someone's life, and it involves another person, or in some way. And so in the Bible, when it talks about this, and of course, you can read the Old Testament and you're like, man, this is nuts. Like, there's so much blood, there's so much death, there's so much war. Um, and like, how is this, the God of the Bible? How is this, this loving God? And I'll say this, it's the same God throughout the Old and New Testament. God doesn't change. We do. We change a lot, actually. Um, but God doesn't change. And again, that's challenging because when you read and you think, okay, man, how is this possible? Like, do not kill, but then that's all you see. If killing in the sense of if you want to call it that, for every case, which it's not that every case, because someone's life ends, that someone's killing someone. But what I would say, just in a very short way, is that the idea here is that one person um, doesn't have the right in of themselves to take another person's life. In other words, God is the giver of life. He's the creator of life. He's the giver of life. And therefore, because God is the creator, we're the creation. We submit to that and we yield to that. And so, but we as people don't have the right to take life from someone else, in of ourselves. Now, when you see like the question talks about, like in the Bible, you see so many wars and things like that. Well, that's where it gets a little bit different in some ways, right? Because now it's like the question of like, well, why is there even war? Why is there even this thing happening where there's conflict and there's people and people groups against each other, and so you really have to ask those questions and understand that first. But let me just say it this way, um, for most people that I have found that ask this question, when I ask them back and I say, okay, well, if someone comes up and attacks you and you try to defend yourself, but in that defense, you somehow end up killing the other person, objectively, you ended their life. Wasn't your intent, wasn't what you wanted. You didn't even start it. But you did end their life. Now, I'm not God, obviously, but I am one that's looking to the heart of God and the principles of what God has told us in Scripture, and the kind of the way that he lays it out. Um, and so we understand that it's like, yeah, like, you hate that happen and you're not happy about it. That there's a lot of trauma there if that were to happen, all those kind of things, and that does happen to people, altercations like that. Um, but the reality is, that person, they would say that they, nowhere in their mind, in their heart, were they ever even thinking about or trying to or even contemplate the idea of taking someone else's life. They were attacked, altercation happened, boom, whatever it is, could be anything, head hit the ground, could be anything. They were just trying to defend themselves. And so in the idea of wars, and when we see that happen, um, I think you can extrapolate the same situation. That there are casualties in war. There are times where things happen. Like, no one on the front end is like, oh man, like this is what we're gonna do, and this is what we want to see happen, for the ones that are genuinely trying to live according to God and according, even on a moral judgment, to say, like, you don't want to go around doing that. And again, you have different words, right? There's kill, there's murder, there's the idea of casualty in of itself. Actually had a friend of mine, true story. He was in the Marines, and he was a he was a gunner. He was stationed. Um, I don't know how far he was off, but basically he was there was it was not it wasn't one of these things that he planned on, and it wasn't expected. But sure enough, he was getting fired at, and he was getting shot at, from some distance, from somewhere. Couldn't tell where it's from or anything. So he unloads, and he's been given, and not only that, but he's been given authority. He's been given in this specific situation, which I can't get into all the details. This was a story from years ago. But anyway, he returns fire, basically, and then fire ceases, they end up going and finding out what's going on. Turns out there was a village nearby that or close enough that was in the same direction, and he actually killed this little girl. She was in the line of fire, but I mean, it's not what he was trying to do. Yeah, I mean, he literally did. Like, he knows it. I mean, he has to live with that the rest of his life. That he killed this little girl. But he was there but my friend was there not because he was on vacation. He was there to serve in the military, and he was there during wartime. And then again, this is years ago, and I won't get into the details exactly of why and what war and all those kind of things. Don't want to stir any more emotions than this thing already does. But we just need to understand and really look at the whole picture of why things are even what they are, and what happens and the possibility of what happens. The reality is, no, God doesn't want us to murder people. You can read in the New Testament. You can even see how Jesus even deepens this command. It's like, if you even have hate for your brother, he says, you've already committed murder in your heart, which is way harder even than just to say, okay, no problem, I just won't kill people, but to say that not to have hate in your heart, all of us have been there at some point where we wanted to, if you didn't want to kill them, at least you wanted to punch them in the face, and you had some hatred somewhere built up in you. And so we should understand that the heart of God is simply that we're not called to take people's lives in of ourselves, but there are times where all authority ultimately comes from God. And so just like if people are in our military and they're called to live under authority of whoever is acting in their situation, whoever that is, as commander, general, whoever it is, I mean, they've got to follow orders, they've got to follow things. And so they're, again, by them being submissive and obeying their authority, they're ultimately saying that, I didn't put this authority here. If I was a Christian in wartime, that's what I would have to go by. Is that I'm living under this authority. This is wartime. I'm doing what I have to do. Right now, people are even the big things about police officers. Well, you know what? I'm not a police officer, but I know that they have a lot to deal with, and they have a lot that they have to do. And I'm not speaking for, I can't speak for every police officer, but in general, it's just understood that they have a lot going on, and so they're not out. Police officers are not out there trying to just kill people in the sense of, hey, as a believer, I'm only speaking for people that are Christians. They're not sitting there saying, well, there's war in the Bible, so it's okay to kill people. You're not going to stand on that. But it's a much bigger conversation. So you and I, or whoever it is, definitely be up for it. On campus, I know it's been a topic as far as this stuff goes, but I would just say you need to understand the bigger picture of as far as why does God say do not kill, but we see wars in the Bible. Why do wars even exist? And it's because God doesn't change, but we do. We as people are sinful. We have reasons to get into battles with the people and other people groups, other countries. And so at the end of the day, God's not looking to take people's lives. People are. But how that happens, well, again, it's a much bigger conversation. And so I hope that helps you a little bit for today as far as what God's heart is on that issue. So, second question today is, if you could go back to school to get any degree, what would it be and why? Oh, that's a good question. So, if you don't know, I got a degree from Louisiana Tech University in the kinesiology program there with health, fitness, and wellness promotion. And I was actually planning on getting a master's in sports performance at the time, but the Lord had other plans, and I've been faithful to those plans ever since. But if I go back and get a degree, for me, at one point I actually wanted to study mathematics because I'm kind of a nerd. I'd done almost all my college calculus in high school before I went to the school. Could have done it during summer school actually, but calculus in the summer doesn't sound fun, so I didn't do it. But as far as if I could go back, I think for me, I would have. I'd have done two different, one or two things. and I'm really stuck between these two. The first one is I would have uh, gone back and gotten some kind of engineering degree, um, simply because I think I could have done well, and I think that engineering is definitely needed in a lot of different ways. And I think that, I don't necessarily think about job security as much as I think about doing what I love. And I do love the behind the scenes. I do love helping build things and projects and different things like that. Especially where I'm from in Houston, chemical engineering is a really big thing. So I was bred for math and science basically growing up, and so I would have done that. Some type of engineering could have been biomedical engineering or chemical engineering. I'm not sure, but the other option I would have done was I actually probably would have got a general studies degree, but I would have purposely done my research and figured out what classes I had options to take in order to create the perfect degree for me, right? And so, in other words, I would want some real communication classes other than just speech. I'd want some, one of the best classes I took, even in college, was my class about entrepreneurship, which I think everybody should take. I would have taken that. I would have taken a class on human nutrition, which again, I think everybody should take a class on nutrition so they actually understand what it is and what it isn't. So I would have done a general studies degree and worked it in a way that would have really benefited me and stuff that I would use on a regular basis. I know that it's kind of a knockoff. People think general studies degrees are lame, but honestly, it's what you make it. And so for me, I probably would have done one of those two things to set me up for what I would have done in the future. Which, by the way, for me, my goal was to be a strength conditioning coach, to go and be that guy for an athletic program, and it just didn't work out that way. And so what I would say is, again, whatever you're gonna do, man, make sure you have peace about it. Make sure you know that it's more of a hobby than it is a job. Like, it's something that you love to do. It's something that, at the end of the day, I mean, not everybody has that. Not everybody is going to do that. Sometimes you got to suck it up and bring the money home and do what you got to do in the meantime. But I would also say, like, don't just get a degree. Again, don't just let college happen to you. Don't just go for good grades and for making your professors happy. Actually learn something that you're going to use from here on out, because that's what college is for. That's what your degree is for. It's not just a piece of paper. It's something that says, hey, I squeezed everything out of this process over these last 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it looks like, so that you can be better prepared for whatever it is after college. And so that's all we got today. I just want to say thanks so much for you guys tuning in. Keep the questions coming. It's good stuff. A little heavy today on a little bit of it, but hey, it's okay. I was kind of caught off guard for sure because I don't see these, and so just know, man, you're getting as honest as you can get. I know we can always have a follow-up conversation. Feel free to reach out to us at Chi Alpha, me personally, however way you want to do that. And so, man, enjoy, you guys. Like I said, keep the questions coming. And until next time, I'm T-Gerf, and that's the T.